Action. So welcome to the second episode of Series 5 of Entangled Discussions, back with a big bang, quantum and space. For those of you who are new to the talks, we're a friendly, inclusive group and we encourage interaction. So please use the chat box for any questions you may have or observations along the way. For those who feel comfortable taking the mic, there will be an opportunity to join the conversation and ask questions later in the event. These talks are recorded, so they go on to our Entangled Discussions YouTube channel, as well as being shared on LinkedIn. So today we have a real rising star in both space and quantum, with his roles as chairman and founder of TODAIRS, working on UN advisory panels and with national governments or speaking at events. It's great to be able to welcome Manuel Ntumba to Entangled Discussions, where today we explore how quantum technologies support sustainable geospatial applications. Welcome, Manuel.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
So it's a real pleasure to have you here today, Manuel. And as always, we really like to get to know the people behind the talk. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself more thoroughly.
Sure, thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Manuel Ntumba. So like John said, I'm currently regional partnership manager for the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is affiliated to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs based in Vienna, Austria. I'm also co-founder of TODAIRS. The meaning is Transparent Organization for Aeronautics and Space Research, which is promoting global sustainable development through satellite technologies and geospatial applications. So I'm really glad for the invitation and glad to give the talk today. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. And I suppose it would be good to start with a pretty fundamental aspect of this. Why are geospatial applications so important, Manuel?
Sure, thank you. So I will explain first what are the main geospatial applications used, and then I will connect them with how they are important in our daily lives. So first of all, geospatial applications is the use of satellite technology, satellite data services, for example, to provide navigation support. We have, for example, GPS, we have Galileo and other navigation systems. It can also support in telecoms for telecommunication purpose, for internet and telephony. It can also support in Earth observation. So with Earth observation, we have the map of the world, and also we also have the monitoring and prediction of climate change and meteorological events. So the first 2 points that I mentioned, telecoms and navigations, they are very important for e-commerce and digital transformation. So this is where I'm going to connect the geospatial applications with our daily lives. So navigations, telecoms are connected to e-commerce and digital transformation. Now, what are the 12 sectors, like 12 main sectors that we can mention as direct applications when it comes to using satellite technologies for digital transformation? So I'm going to mention those 12 sectors. One of the sectors is the finance sector. So mobile banking, the transactions online, so digital banking and also financial technologies being developed all over the world. So for each sector, we have the B2B aspect and the B2C aspects. The second sector is the retail sector. For example, today we can order anything we need online, and it can get delivered in 2 or 3 days. So that is for that also they need navigation systems, and a good internet access is very important for that. So the third sector is the construction sector. So using satellite data services, we can map, for example, if it's about road construction and all, we can use satellite and Earth observation to map and to follow out the construction services. Also, we can use satellite imagery to um, to monitor high buildings and see if there is any amelioration to bring to or improvement to bring to those buildings. So other than that, the fourth sector, yeah, it comes to transportation. So the transportation sector, when we take aviation, so we need satellite-based technologies to ensure the safety during aviation. So it's also important for communication between the airplane and the control center. Also, when we are taking an airplane, sometimes we have access to satellite internet. So yeah, satellite is used there as well. The fifth sector is the energy sector. So now many countries are going to the energy transition toward renewable energy. So satellite technologies can also support that sector. The sixth sector is the media sector. So we have satellites in geostationary orbit that are providing that are helping, for example, for TV broadcast. They use satellites in geostationary orbit to broadcast many events not in real time, but in near to real time. Yeah. So the seventh sector is the manufacturing sector. So how the supply chain works toward the manufacturing of cars or airplanes or boats. Yeah. The eighth sector is the healthcare sector. So yeah, we using satellite technologies. It also helps with the healthcare. For example, a few years ago, there was Ebola in the African region, and satellite and geospatial engineers were using Earth observation to map the propagation of the disease. It was the same with COVID-19 as well. The ninth sector is the education sector. So with COVID-19, we can see that many universities, they had to adopt the online mode. So satellite technologies help to provide internet in some remote areas where people usually don't have a stable internet access. The 10th sector is the mining sector. So when we see in some regions of the world, they have a lot of natural resources, but it's difficult to track the resources to know exactly how many resources are being taken from the mining areas. So using satellite imagery, we can detect what all the activities that are going on. The 11th sector is food and beverage. So we can, like I mentioned, we can now order food online. Even during COVID-19, if we want a pizza, it was possible to order food, and they were using navigation systems to find where we are living to come and deliver the food. So the last one is the agriculture sector. So yeah, satellite imagery are helping a lot in agriculture to determine and to predict what are the outcomes that are coming depending on the seasons in the specific region. So like I mentioned, for each sector, it can be applied for B2B and B2C. Thank you.
Yeah, so it kind of touches onto so many of the things that we take for granted with modern living. But also speaking about things such as, COVID, the environment, it's also offers a real strong potential to safeguard our future as well. So an awful lot of applications there. And as you know, as this is entangled discussions, what benefits do you think that the technologies of the second quantum revolution can bring to this sector?
Okay, thank you so much. So we are here on a quantum platform, so it's important to talk about quantum technologies. Uh, so yeah, for that, I'm going to connect the industries so that we won't have a confusion. So first of all, we have the geospatial industry, like I mentioned, which is connected, which is helping toward digital transformation with the 12 sectors that I mentioned. Now, how quantum technologies are supporting the geospatial industry. So when it comes to that, the first point we can see is with cybersecurity, because when we talk about satellite data services, it's important to protect the data and the communication between the different locations. So quantum technologies can help to establish a secure data transmission and communication between the different satellites. So quantum algorithm can help to improve the models to secure the communication between the different satellites. And there are that was shown by the Chinese space agency a few years ago with a satellite being able to communicate through quantum technology. So another point is the telecoms. So through telecommunication, so we have quantum configurations and like optical communications and photonic configurations where they provide a better configuration for communication, better than the radio communication that was existing before. So when it comes to optical satellite communication, quantum technologies can play a big role. So one example of that is the data relay system that the European Space Agency is working on. So instead of using radio frequency technologies, they are adopting laser terminals to establish optical communication. So the last point I will mention is robotics, like automation and robotics. So quantum technologies and quantum algorithms can help to improve um, the automation side and AI side of the technologies that we are using, and it can also help a lot with the satellite configurations. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so you mentioned about the things like quantum cryptography, QKD, and how that secures the data with the satellites. But how can the satellites then also help with this technology as well? Because it seems as though it's a two-way stream there.
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about satellite communications, uh, at some point it comes to a huge network connecting the world, like through different satellite and data relay satellite systems. So the communication between the different satellites, for example, providing the satellites that are providing us the broadcast, TV broadcast that we are seeing. So if those data are not secured, unfortunately, maybe someday instead of seeing our TV show, we will come up and we will come to the TV and we will see another program or something hurtful to the public going on the TV. So it's important to improve the data security as long as we are going. And yeah, when we talk about the network, when the network is maybe using optical fiber systems, when we want to apply quantum technologies, maybe it can be limited to some point. It cannot go like, it cannot cover the whole world. We cannot cover the whole world unless we have many antennas covering many areas, but that will be difficult due to geopolitical reasons. But using satellites, yeah, it's possible to implement quantum technologies and algorithm at global scale through satellites.
And you mentioned AI and robotics. I'd love to sort of dig a little bit deeper into this theme as well, because these are areas that are, or these are technologies that are touching lots of areas. And I can imagine within sort of geospatial technology, satellite technologies, then there must be some particularly interesting applications that's in your visibility.
Sure, thank you. So first, I'm going to give how the quantum technologies, like quantum robotics technologies, can help when it comes to using satellite technologies for Earth applications, and then when it comes to using satellite technologies for exploration or for the safety of space traffic management, for example. So using quantum algorithms, for example, with the Google Quantum AI Lab, it's possible to develop more advanced automation systems. So those automation systems, the more we are moving, the more we need automation systems connected with the Internet of Things, connected with many satellites, like we said about the telecoms part. So it's having implementing or integrating quantum algorithms with AI would definitely help to improve those different sectors. Now, when it comes to the space traffic management, there are many satellites already in the low Earth orbit, and sometimes it happens, collisions happen, and there are space debris around, and all over the world, the space community is trying to come up with a technology that can help for space debris mitigation or to bring safety between satellites. Because if all the satellites are turned down today, I don't think I cannot even imagine what it will be like living one day without satellites. So it's like we need satellites in our lives. So developing those automation systems can help for collision avoidance between the space objects, and also can help to develop a technology for space debris mitigation to ensure the sustainability in space. Thank you.
And sort of thinking about some of those themes, and something that comes up an awful lot with quantum technology and lots of other groundbreaking technologies. So particularly geospatial applications, they've got such global importance. What steps are required to ensure multinational collaboration on these initiatives?
Okay, thank you. So I'm happy to say that this year, 2021, the United Nations Office for Information and Communication Technologies, they adopted the United Nations Geospatial Strategy. So with that document, it's possible to see the defined regulations and the defined strategy defined by the United Nations that countries that would like to adopt geospatial applications can follow. So one of the main points in that is the cyber security side. So it's important to find a common ground between the different countries when it comes to cybersecurity.
Mm.
Also, the analytics and big data. So because when we talk about many satellites, it's about a huge data, and every week, every month, or every year, there are many satellites that are being sent to space. So it's like the data in the space and cyberspace in space is growing every time. So it's important for countries to come toward the collaboration on that. Uh, the other point is innovation. So the strategy is proposing that it's important for countries to come together to define their innovation programs on towards the geospatial industry. And the last one is technology development. So if there could be a collaboration between different countries to support technology development. So that is the UN geospatial strategy that they adopted in 2021. Now, while we try to connect it with the quantum technology, it's important also to define a quantum technology strategy or quantum application strategy so that every countries who are member of the United Nations, they can define what aspects they want to focus on or what aspects they want to prioritize. Thank you.
And just sort of coming back to some of the thinking about some of the things we mentioned earlier. So we kind of touched on the sort of photonics optical side of things, but with sort of quantum photonics, optical communications being such a fundamental part of, well, technology in general, but certainly space exploration, satellite technology. How do you see these interacting with geospatial services and applications, and what particular areas are most in focus or most desirable?
Okay, thank you. So, for example, up till now, usually to find a solution between the communication between the satellites or the delay, because the satellites, they have to rotate the Earth and come back. So what was adopted was the constellations of satellites, but the constellations are bringing more and more satellites and more risk for collision or for space debris. So now the like I said, the European Space Agency and other space agencies, they are trying to develop data relay systems, like data relay satellite systems. And for those data relay satellite systems to work with like less satellites than the constellations, but to give the same results, they need an advanced communication system. What I mean is if we are launching 10 satellites or 12 satellites in constellation, the communication system that we are using for them cannot be the same that we are using when we want to launch like 3 satellites, but that we are going to work in relay with the other ground stations. So it's important to adopt a more advanced communication system, and that will allow us to launch less satellites into space, but those satellites will be able to do what the huge constellation of satellites are already doing. So this is why it's important to come up with the laser terminals for communication between the satellites.
And just with regards to the sort of the traffic, for want of a better term, the traffic with satellites, we're seeing more and more advances with things like CubeSats and miniaturizing technology. What sort of impact is that having? Because we're seeing more and more satellites and more satellite technology in space, but it's also being miniaturized. So how does that affect the sort of the volume and dynamics and flow, traffic flow, for want of a better term?
Okay, thank you. So what happens is yeah, with the miniaturization of the satellites into cube satellites or small satellites, many countries are now able to afford their own satellites. So worldwide, many countries, developing countries, are trying to launch their own satellites, and it's a national prestige. But the problem is the cube satellites, their lifespan is smaller than the big satellites. So it's like, okay, every country, if we want every country to launch one U satellite, so one U is one unity of satellite, so only one cube of satellite. So those cube of satellites, their lifespan is like in average 2 years. So after 2 years, they cannot work anymore, and even the data that they have provided are not enough for a country, like a whole country. So it's more a matter of prestige than the work that the satellite can do. So after 2 years, that satellite will become a debris. So yeah, it's like more and more the miniaturization. Yeah, there is a good side. Everyone can afford the satellite technologies, but after that, it's bringing more debris because the lifespan of the cube satellites are not the same like the big satellites.
And when launched, what sort of mitigation is in place to prevent it just turning? Is there a path back to Earth to burn up in the atmosphere? How fundamental to the life cycle are these aspects? That sort of sustainability, I suppose.
Okay, so I would say that there's still a lot to do when it comes to sustainability in space, and many experts in the field are working on it. Yeah, but some satellites are designed so that when they arrive at the end of their lifespan, they can get burned in the atmospheres. Some of them they get deorbited and they get into another orbit where they cannot hurt the satellites that are active. But some of the satellites are not designed to do anything when it comes to the end. So they are still there and they don't follow any orbit. So it's quite dangerous, actually.
And over the last few years, I've noticed a real uptick in different weird and wonderful ideas about reducing some of the debris in space, whether it's from previous collisions or satellites that are no longer functioning. Are there any of these initiatives that have particularly caught your eye, or any that you think will bear real results in the short, medium, or long term?
Okay, sure. So there are different propositions, like proposals for space debris mitigation. But what happens is some of them, the cost is very expensive to operate, and some of them, they can only take some specific size of space debris. So either it's the medium size or the smaller size, but they cannot take all type of of debris. So there, I think it's important to come back to quantum technologies because it's the next level when it comes to the space industry. Because we are already using AI, robotics, but what is next? What can help to improve the technologies? So I think quantum technologies implemented, quantum algorithms implemented with robotics can help to configure systems that are more advanced and that can achieve those goals even better than what is existing right now.
So what I'm hearing there is quantum technologies, people looking for quantum to come to the rescue again. So,
Yeah.
and as as a kind of a wider or more general note, obviously, there's some incredible things happening, but what are you most excited by, Manuel?
Yeah, I think the parts where we can use photonic quantum configuration systems to improve communication between satellites, because not only it will help for geospatial applications on Earth, but it can also help for space exploration, like interplanetary missions, because till now many missions they get got failed because of communication problems, lunar missions, Mars missions. So if we can improve the communication between satellites using quantum configurations, yeah, it will help a lot in the space exploration as well. And the more we are exploring the world, the more we feel like we are advancing in science and technology. Yeah, so I'm really excited about how the quantum technology is going to like help in the space industry.
Excellent. And within the from the audience, we've had a question coming from Avinash. So Avinash, if you'd like to and you're able to, please take the mic and join in.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, Avinash. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, Manuel, for that very informative things and very broad perspectives you have touched up. So let me introduce myself. I am Avinash. I'm a PhD grad student from India, and I work on satellite image analytics using quantum machine learning. Specifically, I work to enhance deep learning and machine learning techniques using quantum computing. So, me and my research supervisor are also interested in quantum internet and quantum communications. So, we are looking for some collaborations with the research groups around. So, can you suggest some platforms or any other a way to collaborate because as you know this quantum computing is a very booming and very new research area. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for your question. So yeah, like you said, it's a very growing area, and for a community, yeah, I would say, for example, with the entangled community that's providing us this platform to share this information. Yeah, it's also a great community to belong to. And also we have One Quantum, so they cover the world. I think, yeah, some of their representatives are here in attending this webinar as well. So One Quantum, it covers like academia, the industry, and many more sectors in the quantum field. So you can definitely reach out and get in touch with them. I think it will help a lot for collaborations in the quantum industry. Thank you.
Yeah, really
Thank
great point there, and obviously thanks for the kudos for entangled discussions, and with One Quantum as well. There may be a UK chapter starting very soon, but no spoilers there. And Bill, obviously you've mentioned your project as well, which fits really nicely within the talk. So Bill Gonzalez, if you're able to, please come and join us.
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was mentioning that currently with the NGA, which deals with working on a project that deals with imagery and determining, with all the deep fakes and all the manipulated information that the NGA receives or could receive now. Primarily the NGA used to produce all their own imagery, satellite imagery, but with the abundance of satellites available now and feeds coming in from lots of different places, drones, ground stations, etc., the NGA is working hard to basically identify systems that can assist with determining whether images have been touched or not. And they're using a lot of AI to track these things. They're using things like blockchain to manage provenance and determine that an image goes from one system to another securely and without manipulation. But the fact that they're using a lot of AI, what we're also looking to leverage in there is, of course, quantum AI. And that is, there's a multitude of images that have to be processed in a short amount of time. And right now, it takes some time to process these images that are coming through. And so we'd like to use, come up with ideas that utilize quantum, take that advantage, and allow for agencies like the NGA and other, European agencies to process the imagery much faster. Because, as you know, the more satellites up in space, it means much more imagery coming in, and there's a greater potential for some of that to get manipulated on the way down. Over.
Sure. Thank you so much for your comment. So I would like to add something to that. Yes, indeed, there is a huge amount of data produced every day through the satellites. And unfortunately, in some regions, they have the satellite data, but they don't know what to do exactly with it. And in some regions, they want to use satellite data, but they don't have the satellites or the infrastructures. So it's important how quantum algorithms can help into using those data and implementing them in the different industries, for improvement in the different sectors. Thank you for bringing that point.
Yeah, it's a fantastic breadth of applications and possibilities, both kind of offensive possibilities that can lead to better outcomes, and also defensive possibilities that can prevent bad outcomes as well. So some great work there, Bill, and be interesting to see that pan out. And I notice on the call we've got Rupesh Srivastava, Paul Grimm, and Andrew Gall. I'm sure there's some interesting topics that we've pulled out from each of you three. So are there any further comments from any of you three?
No, it's been an interesting discussion. Thanks very much. No other further questions from me.
Okay. Perfect. So I think and does anyone else have any further questions? Rupesh, I can see a hand frantically waving. Come and join.
Yeah, it's a great talk. Well done. I'm just putting my ears in, which took a bit of time. But really, my question is about it's something different, because I think a lot about what I call the quantum citizen and the quantum workforce. John, you and I, we've discussed this so many times. But my question really is about how do you get young people interested and involved, especially in the type of geospatial work being done today?
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. So I think one thing that is important is for example, this kind of events that we have through Entangled discussions, where the public can learn more about the quantum technologies and how it's connected with our daily lives, or how it's going to improve our daily lives. So it's important to create awareness between the public, like outreach programs, especially when we talk about young people at their young age. Today we have some, in the space industry, we have some astronomy and space science projects going even to the primary schools. So it's important to have a content that can be understandable by the children at some level, so that when they grow up, they come to the university, they are interested into the quantum industry and the quantum technologies, because they can see the future in it. Other than that, it's also about the connecting with the decision makers and the industry leaders. So if we can explain to them that, okay, in 10 years, in 15 years, quantum technologies are going to rule the world. So that can that can lead them to include specific programs on quantum technology or quantum technology courses at university level to bring more young people in the field. I think that can definitely help.
Well, thank you, Manuel. I've got a quick follow-up to that. Do you think, because quantum technologies are increasingly, well, being deployed into space, and do you think those quantum resources could also be used for education purposes? Because that's something I'm keen on. You know, for example, to do entanglement type experiments, and then make those accessible to school children via some kind of web interface.
Yeah, I think that can be possible, like with the time, like in long term, that can definitely be possible, because we already saw one space agency sending data on Earth using quantum technologies. So yeah, definitely that can be possible. And one thing that can be can enable that will be the collaboration between different experts from around the world on the specific research to bring that specific result. It can help.
I think just as a wider note on those themes. So I think within quantum, there's a certain mystique and intrigue around it that's obviously positive for spreading the message, and particularly to young people. Then there's the kind of the complexity, and in some cases perceived complexity. I think when it comes to space, I think there's probably very few people on this talk on the talk or in the audience today that didn't dream about being an astronaut or going to space when they were younger. So, and sometimes in these situations, it's the style of message is so important. If you get that right, then the rest should follow. And I suppose as adults, there's sometimes a way of explaining it in the way that you would like it explained to you, rather than the firing up children's imagination. So I think that the style of messaging is hugely important, but if that needs to be done correctly, because whether both space and quantum, they're going to require a huge amount of talented, energetic, intelligent people to really fulfill the potential of what everyone's working towards. So without inspiring that next generation, what's it going to be built on? So it's absolutely fundamental that we get that message right, and we are able to fire that imagination.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've also had a question from Asayama. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name. If you're able to, please come and join come and take the mic.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Yeah, it's Esiama, not Asayama. Esiama. Okay. I wanted to find out if there's any technology, like how we merge biology and also quantum technology. Is there any development in that area?
Thank you so much for your question. So when it comes to, for example, connecting quantum technologies for advanced robotic system, we also have like bioengineering, where we have today, for example, we have the prosthesis that people can use whenever they get into some accident. So using quantum technologies, or quantum algorithms, we can help to improve. The quantum algorithm can help to improve those technologies that are existing. So we can have more autonomous AI-based systems that can respond the better, and yeah, that helps a lot when it comes to biotechnology and bioengineering. So it can help. Another example that I can give is, for example, in bioastronautics. So what is bioastronautics? It's about, for example, in space, designing spacesuits for astronauts, or designing all the living materials that astronauts are using on the International Space Station. So but those technologies, they are advanced, of course, but quantum algorithms and quantum technologies can help to improve those technologies and maybe come up with some advanced autonomous systems as well.
And I think in addition to that, there's kind of upstream and downstream applications. So, for example, the people studying bird's eyes for their how they navigate, and looking at the quantum biology aspects there, or photosynthesis, and how the efficiency the efficiency of photosynthesis could be used in whether it's solar panels, that there may be other quantum tunneling applications that come off the back of that as well. And then also maybe in terms of, say, for example, using quantum technologies for gene sequencing, in future, potentially even personalized medicines, maybe even personalized vaccines one day. So it's obviously a very complicated area when you've got quantum and the numerous different systems involved with biology. There's some incredibly sort of complex things happening, but the potential benefits or potential applications are astounding. And I think that in the in the chats, I think we've had some comments from Abhijit, that's actually rather than me taking credit for them. Abhijit, would you like to come and join?
Yeah, hi. So Ashyama's question, I think basically, in a sense, biology is an extension of chemistry, right? And chemical reactions are quantum, so they are not classical. So in that sense, there are variational algorithms now which can do very accurate chemical predictions for, say, ground state energy. The problem is the quantum computers are small and noisy. So the type of molecules that has been done are, say, biggest molecule will be something like water, which is obviously not an organic compound, right? Because organic compounds are way bigger. So I think the direction is moving as we get to more and more fault tolerant and bigger quantum computers. Biological applications essentially will happen as an extension of chemistry, in pharmacology, even in agriculture, like I mentioned about the Haber-Bosch process, which is used to create fertilizers. And that process is actually older than the First World War. So you can imagine we are using a 110-year-old technology to create most of the food production of the world right now. Hugely energy intensive, so that's important. There are some papers about some early indications of things like protein folding. You can look in, like, if you just say ARXIV and then protein folding, you will get those kind of work. But they're essentially hybrid at this stage. Small part is done in quantum, the rest is done classically, because again, those biochemical molecules are much bigger than quantum computers can handle right now. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Thank you for the comment. If I may add something to that, okay, to keep it within our topic today. So, for example, when the astronauts they travel to the International Space Station, there is a biohazards with the radiations So there is still a lot of research to do on that and a lot of discoveries to come up with that. So like Abhijit explained it, using quantum computers, we can come up with more advanced discoveries about the radiations and biohazards that can help in space exploration as well. Thank you.
Just something that's sort of cropped up in my mind as we're discussing this. So looking at the potential maturation of quantum computers and the timelines we're looking at for other quantum technologies, and looking at potential timelines for having off-world settlements, whether that's on the moon to start with potential, or maybe Mars in due course, but some of the challenges around how people are housed and fed. Do you see much input into how potentially quantum technology, but also quantum biology, could be used to help, whether it's grow food, protect the people that are off world, or add other dynamics into making off world more habitable?
Yeah, of course, like you mentioned, it's using quantum biology or quantum chemistry features. It will be possible, for example, for many researchers or many institutions are working on how to grow foods on Mars, or how to for water detection on the moon. So yeah, I think quantum biology can definitely help with those research to provide more advanced technologies and tools to the researchers.
And I do apologize. I just realized I got excited and went totally off topic there. But as we was so last week we were speaking about some of the challenges around when as a society, when as a society we may be occupying areas further and further away from Earth. And we spoke about the challenges around, different timing systems, how to have a centralized time. But we're talking about geospatial applications, as in pretty much around Earth and maybe in a few small cases around the moon. But how do you see that, or what potential might there be to scale that up to increase other celestial bodies with satellite tech or geospatial and satellite technologies, whether to aid scientific endeavors or indeed to be able to begin to populate other areas?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So yeah, my talk was focused on applications around Earth and on our daily lives. But like you mentioned here, technologies that can be developed, for example, when we take photonic configurations to improve satellite communication, optical satellite communications, those technologies can also help in space exploration, communication between Earth and the probes on Mars or on the moon. And also for the space exploration, for example, space observatories, and maybe in the future to develop quantum technologies that can improve telescopes. And I think one of the audience, he mentioned about satellites imagery analysis. So yeah, like that can definitely help, like for the detection and the exploration of space and other within our solar system and outside our solar system, of course. Thank you.
And whilst we've got a couple of minutes left, is there anyone else that wants to come and join in before I hug any more questions? Cool. So I think one of the things that we mentioned that I think is good to just revisit is that kind of multinational collaboration. So you mentioned that some of the initiatives that are in place to ensure there's a more level playing field, and that people work together rather than to one agenda that may contrast another. And we see a lot within quantum technologies that, one country or one group can't do everything on their own, and the best results come from that international collaboration and working together. And it's, in many cases, it's at a pre-competition stage. Obviously with space, the dynamics are slightly different, but in terms of, assuming that they were able to get countries to work together and have a strong unified approach, how much difference do you think that will add to the potential applications that we may have? What's your sort of view of how we may have, or what would the difference be, do you think, between having everyone sort of pulling together or everyone working to their own agenda?
Okay, so I'm going to reply through a comparison with the space industry. So the space industry started with a competition between big nations wanting to go into space, but we can see that in the 1990s, when they started coming together to collaborate for the International Space Station, then we started having better results. Like many discoveries have been made on the International Space Station, and still going on till now. So that's one of the examples. So that shows that, yeah, countries can do it alone, like big countries can do it alone, but when they come together, we have that capability of people, of mind, of researchers, of scientists coming together and bringing different approaches to the specific solutions. So that can definitely help to improve the results and also the level of the research that are produced in the industry. So collaboration is really important.
So learn the lessons of history and fantastic. And if there's sort of one thing that you'd like to leave the audience today with, one overriding thing, what would that be?
Okay, so I would first of all thank you for the invitation, and thank you to the audience for attending this session. So one thing that I wanted to add is because we are talking about the space industry and the quantum industry, when we take the space industry, it started making sense to big decision makers when we explain, when like people were explaining to them that, okay, using satellite data, this can bring these economic benefits. And yeah, so I think it's also important that we try from the quantum community to explain to the decision makers, the industry, the universities, what are the applications of the quantum technologies, because that will help, because they are the decision makers, they are the ones that will provide grants to support initiatives around the world. So it's important to have a framework where we explain the applications in our daily lives, how quantum technologies are connected to our daily lives, to create that awareness between them. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manuel. Or maybe a weekly discussion series about quantum, perhaps. But no, fantastic. And I think that there's so many themes and topics I'm gonna need to digest further and think further on. But fantastic talk today, Manuel. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure that the audience feel the same. And thanks to the audience members for joining in. So in terms of next week, so we're back again. See you all again at the same time, which is 4:30 p.m. GMT. The clocks have changed differently in different time zones, so please check your own different time zones and things like that, as they might be different to this week's. But next week we'll have Daniel Oy, who will be discussing space, quantum, internet. So 3 things that excite me all rolled into one. So really good. Thanks. Really good to see you all today, and see you all next week. Thank you very much all.